Good evening, folks. Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. This is a round 9 summary playtest 4 of the Global War 1939 series. More of a repositioning round. The Allies, or the Axis, I should say, need to capture Calcutta or hold Paris, probably to win. That's what it is looking like. And currently the British and the FEC have sent their fleet that was in the Mediterranean, and they've tucked in and off of Calcutta, so an amphibious landing, at least for the next couple turns, is off the map. So that means the Japanese have to come via land, and the FEC currently has probably about another 10 units, maybe a few more than the Japanese. So they're going to have to bring everything, which probably means emptying out China. They got a bunch of fast movers there in Sichuan. They're going to have to join. And the British had sent a couple of 4 armor from Cairo that joined. So that was huge there. So good job for the British for repositioning. And the Japanese are feeling a little bit of a squeeze. They've got this navy here to contend with. They've got this massive Australian, British, and Canadian, New Zealand fleet down here. And it's sort of a bit of a stalemate here, but they can't really leave, because as soon as they leave, the the Anzac are going to start gobbling up the Money Islands again. So the Japanese are going to have to make a decision on what to do with their navy. Most of the navy that is here, it is transport, so they're not really serving a purpose right now. So not sure what they're going to do. There's currently a Yamato battleship, a couple destroyers, and a couple submarines. The Japanese are building navy. They built another carrier up here and a couple more submarines. But why they're feeling the naval pressure, and that's because America is now starting to build over here in the Pacific. They've got two naval transports in the water, and from this sea zone here off of Western Canada, this is a naval base. They go 1, 2, 3, and they're landing in Tokyo. So that is a major problem for the Japanese. So they're going to have to use some of their navy or start building in Tokyo next turn, because America is coming in the Pacific. There's also a carrier that came over from the Atlantic. So that's what's happening there. So currently over here in the Pacific theater, the Japanese have not done a good job in securing that 6th victory city. Now over here, this is what is currently sitting in Paris, and there's about 25 units there. And this is what's sitting in Bordeaux, a combination of Canadians and British and Americans. And the Americans have about 25 units themselves. So currently Paris is not looking great. The British are going to be able to non-com in about another 14 units next turn. And America is going to be able to bring another 12. So, and now America, they're quite established in Bordeaux. They built a naval base next turn, so they're able to start doing shuck a lot easier now. So it's going to get cheaper for them because they don't have to buy naval transports anymore. And over here on the Turkish front, the British have the numerical advantage, and that is simply because the Germans are protecting this border territory here, and the territory behind Romania they also have to protect because there's a minor ice sea there. And the British have all these naval transports. They're just sitting there ready to swing into the Black Sea and cause havoc on any of these Russian territories. So a little bit of a precarious situation for the Germans to try to defend when the British only have to defend one territory. So going to be interesting there. The Germans are starting to send infantry in some of the spaces that had armor. They were holding and occupying spaces that were taken up by the or holding an armor in a space so that a partisan infantry would not pop up. But now infantry are now occupying the spaces, so the armor is starting to free up. That was that massive stack. So currently in Stalingrad there is 9 armor, or 10, 9 armor. So that's nothing to ignore. But the British have done a pretty good job. They did build an air base sitting here in Iraq, so just more mobility for their air force. It can go any direction to Calcutta, it can go up here into the Caucasus, or it can go over here into Bulgaria. So I would say as of round 10 or round 9, the Allies have the upper hand because it looks like Paris is definitely under threat. The Italians have been playing ping pong with this territory here in Spain to try and annex all this stuff, and it just hasn't worked. So it looks like the Canadians and the British and the Americans have done a pretty good job at keeping the Italians at bay. And I just wonder, if the British do build a couple more transports, could they later on bring them up and just grab everybody from Turkey and go to take a poke at Rome? So that's something to keep an eye on. Bad news for the Russians, unfortunately. That was a little bit of bad news for their Lend-Lease from the Americans was sank to the bottom of the ocean again, so none of it reached the Russians. And the KMT, this also maybe a little bit of bad news, they decided to back out of this Chinese territory here, and they're now sort of blocking the Japanese fast movers from coming and taking a poke at Novosibirsk. So they want to make sure that it's safe. And if Russia one day is able to, get some of the Lend-Lease, they will start being able to protect units, which will free up the KMT to at least try and put some pressure on the Japanese to try and keep some units behind and not send everything to Calcutta. So that is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And that is all I got for round 9, and stay tuned for round 10. Thanks for watching.